All right, we're ready? Hey everyone, I'm Kevin Fischer, and I'm going to talk about human cognitive enhancements. So first I'm going to go through some of the low-hanging fruit with this, which is namely sleeping more and drinking more water. It really helps. Then I'm going to talk about some supplement and drug-based interventions, and then try and talk about where is the culture. So, sorry?
Can you get on top of that mic a little more?
Yeah. Okay, so start by optimizing your sleep. There's so many people out there that are proud of just subsisting on 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, and you can get used to it eventually, but it never stops impacting your consciousness and well-being. And so if you can manage to sleep for 7 or 8 hours a night, it really makes you a better or more functional and happier human being. If you push it to 9 or 10 hours, some of the people that are performing at the highest levels of cognitive or mathematical achievements get a benefit out of 9 or 10 hours of sleep, but a lot of people just don't. So I would just try and get that recommended 7 or 8 hours. 11 or 12 hours is almost always a negative. That the sleep studies on that seem to indicate that sleeping for 12 hours just gives you a brain fog for the whole day. There's a software called Flux, which when installed on your computer shifts the light towards the red spectrum at night, and not having this obnoxious glowing white light on your computer monitor really helps you get to sleep. Additionally, you can just put red lights in your room, and not having white light staring you in the face as you're preparing to go to sleep goes a long way towards falling asleep. Additionally, blackout curtains are a good sleep mask. The sun getting in your eyes in the morning whenever you're trying to sleep until 11 a.m. is not helping your sleep quality. And if you're sleeping on a 15-year-old mattress, memory foam or latex goes a long way, especially if you're sleeping with a partner, and that these kinds of mattresses don't transmit the vibrations from one side to the other. So if your partner is rolling around on the other side of the bed or getting up at a different time, that won't disturb your sleep. Melatonin is one of the most important supplements out there. It broadly does good things for health in the brain, and it helps just about everyone get to sleep about 15 or 30 minutes faster. So in that sense, it's literally like free time. You know, you're getting an extra 30 minutes of your life back. Surprisingly, microdoses are more effective than the normal dosages. That if you go to a drugstore, you will typically be sold a 3 milligram pill of melatonin. And any study on melatonin that has ever been done says that less is more. That 0.3 of a milligram can work better than the dosage 10 times as high. Most common side effect of melatonin is vivid lucid dreams. So it's not so bad in the scheme of side effects. For chronic insomniacs, there's some other safe supplements that you can add on top of melatonin to get to sleep safely and easily. 5-HTP is a precursor for serotonin and ends up being somewhat converted to melatonin and feels pretty similar except with the side effect of causing happy dreams. GABA is the neurotransmitter that's agonized by alcohol and benzodiazepines. You can get it cheaply in supplemental form, and like that, it just feels like physical sedation. And if you have all three of these together, 5-HTP, melatonin, and GABA, that knocks out most chronic insomniacs. I'm a huge advocate of drinking more water. Very much a believer in that recommended 8 ounces of water a day. It goes a long way. But having even more water than that lets your body safely tolerate more electrolytes. And perpetually operating in a well-hydrated, well-electrolyted metabolic state just lets you reach higher levels of physical and mental achievement. So I have some favorite sources of electrolytes. For sodium, I really like pink salt, Himalayan rock salt. It's great stuff. It's 98% sodium, 2% calcium, and some other things. For magnesium, there's a supplement Concentrace from Trace Minerals Research. It's water from the Great Salt Lake that's evaporated and then with the sodium removed. So what that ends up with is a supplement that is just about all magnesium, but then still has 80 other trace minerals in small amounts. So you can get some vanadium or beryllium or lithium that might be missing in your modern Western diet. For calcium, algae-sourced calcium is way more bioavailable than normal calcium supplements. It just seems in general that full-spectrum sources of vitamins and minerals are much better absorbed by the body than these supplements in their isolated forms. Potassium, I don't know of a full-spectrum source for it other than coconut water, but you can get straight up potassium citrate and supplement that, and it is like 2 hours of jitter-free energy. My favorite off-the-shelf electrolyte supplement is 40,000 volts from Trace Minerals Research. It is the same as the concentrates, but with potassium added. So you're getting all the electrolytes at once. So there's been a kind of trend or fad on the marketplace to sell water with electrolytes. It's like straight out of the vision of idiocracy. But Skip Smart Water, it doesn't really have electrolytes in it. It's just like dots of salt, but nothing that actually counts. The only water off the shelf that seems to have actual high amounts of electrolytes is the German mineral water Apollinaris, which is high in sodium and magnesium, which is a pretty bioavailable combination. And a whole bottle of Apollinaris is pretty stimulating or reasonably mind-altering. I've been looking at trying to get high potassium mineral water, which you can get from Eastern Europe, but I have not found out a way to get less than a shipping container's worth of it. So if anyone has space to store a shipping container of mineral water, let me know. Okay, so going to get into some of my personal favorite interventions, supplemental or drug-based interventions. Bacopa is an Indian herbal medicine that isn't too well studied, but in most anecdotal user experience, people really believe that it enhances math ability and verbal fluency, and it works right away. It's not something that takes weeks to build up in your system. The classic nootropic is piracetam, invented in Russia in the 60s, broadly neuroprotective, incredibly safe, safer by gram than sugar, and it improves working memory and verbal fluency, and you want to take it with choline as it has a tendency to deplete choline. Creatine, especially vegetarians, there's been a number of studies showing that supplementing creatine can really increase IQ in vegetarians. So if you are a vegetarian, I would just go out and get some creatine and see what that does for you. Huperzine is an acetylcholinease inhibitor regulated as a supplement. So that's the kind of typical Alzheimer's management drug, but you can take that well before you develop Alzheimer's. And it's kind of particularly useful if you're in a situation of acute learning, like if you're paying for a private lesson or something and you like really want to just maximize absorption of new information, that's when an acetylcholinease inhibitor will be best. Vinpocetine does nothing more than increase blood flow to the brain. So it doesn't do that much on its own unless you just want to sit and meditate and fuel the extra blood in your brain, but it mixes and amplifies all of these other things. So a lot of the commercial products out there that are blends of nootropics, they mostly all have vinpocetine in it. Picomolan is a highly bioavailable form of GABA that is also a bioavailable form of niacin. So it's stimulating in a very relaxing way. So it's the kind of thing you might want to take a few hours before going to sleep if you wanted to get a little bit of highly focused work done. And then modafinil is mostly the strong one of these that I take most often. And modafinil is a narcolepsy drug. It's billed as a wakefulness promoting agent. And for something that increases focus and energy, it has far fewer side effects than amphetamine or Ritalin. And it's very expensive if you get it in the USA with a prescription, but quite cheap to buy on the internet. So you can get a prescription from a doctor and then go to mymodafinil.com and have it shipped generically from India. Wanted to talk briefly about antidepressants. Definitely don't be depressed. That doesn't make you smarter. If you're doing therapy, talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy is just about the only thing that has strong evidence towards it working. If you're taking SSRIs, I would consider switching to a different drug. SSRIs are well known to cause brain fog and have a pretty negative side effect profile. Wellbutrin, the NRI, is severely underrated and literally has the opposite side effect profile of the SSRIs. So it makes you a little smarter, it causes you to lose weight, and it makes sex better. Seleginine is an MAOB inhibitor and is also vaguely cognitively enhancing and neuroprotective. Also almost never prescribed by psychiatrists for whatever reason. Just a few things that everyone should take. This is close to consensus. Vitamin D and fish oil, if you're not taking those, I would start right away. Grass-fed beef liver is more of my own strong belief, but 4 ounces of that a week is an absurdly dense and bioavailable delivery of vitamins and minerals, but it's kind of gross. So questions are, where do we go from here? That this kind of information was controversial for a while, but the 2008 Nature editorial that was more or less advocating for usage of cognitive enhancing supplements among scientists was a really big step forward. And there have been no real responses to it. Like, no one has gone and said, we disagree with this Nature editorial and think it's evil for scientists to be taking brain-enhancing substances. So what's next? I would like to see a lot more research in undergraduate populations. It can be hard to test if you're actually increasing IQ, but it's pretty easy to test if you're increasing GPA, and that's close enough that we can just use that as a test target. So I'd love to see testing of Bacopa and Paracetam in people taking classes like Calculus 1 or 2. And I would expect that we could pretty quickly establish that giving these drugs to undergraduates decreases dropout rates. There's really not that much resistance among undergraduates towards wanting to take these kinds of things. Mostly they're just worried about legality, accessibility, cost, and safety. You can help by just building the body of anecdotal evidence that if you take these things, talk about your experiences on the internet, and you can try and track your mental performance with various software tools. Quantify-mind.com is a pretty good one with brain training tests that you can keep up with. We also are entering this period where there are really no strong public figures advocating for this kind of stuff. So if you want to step up and tell people about this, we need as many people as we can get there advocating for this if we're going to affect cultural transformation. I'm really not sure how long it's going to take for us to get towards nationally sanctioned use of this kind of thing, but if I was going to guess, the Chinese Academy of Scientists will endorse this long before the United States does. So just going to offer a very basic prediction, which is that 10 years from now, more than 60% of US engineering undergraduate seniors will have tried a legal supplemental brain-enhancing substance. And I am happy to take your questions.
That using red lights and flux and whatnot. What do you think about like this orange blocker kind of glasses?
Yeah, same kind of idea. Sure. So Scott asked about using red glasses. You can get them pretty cheap on Amazon. They're safety glasses that make everything you look at look red, and that has substantially the same effect as having red lights. I just usually don't remember to wear the glasses, but it's pretty easy for me to leave the red lights on in my room.
Have you seen anything on the PKR inhibitors, like the C16 PKR inhibitor?
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I couldn't talk about it in detail.
Did you mention anything about resveratrol?
Yeah, I've taken it at various points. I guess I've maybe thought that it was oversold at some point and that it might not be quite as effective as it was billed as, that there seems to be something like that red wine's action is more complex than just resveratrol, but certainly it's not doing any harm to take, and if you're taking it, I wouldn't stop, but it might take massive dosages to get the effect, like a whole bottle at once.
I don't know, I increasing energy levels and mental acuity.
Well, I mean, a lot of these things are really different from person to person, so if something works for you, I definitely wouldn't stop. Go ahead.
Two questions. First, is there a nootropic blend that you like, that you've tried, or that you've results with?
I think the only one of the commercial ones I've tried has been Alpha Brain, and what's the active trio? I think it's Bacopa, vinpocetine, and huperzine. And yeah, it works. I mostly prefer to be able to titrate and experiment day by day, so I haven't stuck on any of the commercial blends, but if I would try and experiment yourself with the individual ingredients before you settle on a complicated stack like that. Talk shit.
Whose blend is garbage, or who's spreading iffy science?
So a lot of the blends that are garbage, it's not that they're garbage, it's that they're neuroprotective rather than cognitively enhancing. So some of the mainstream vitamin companies have blends that they bill as smart drugs that aren't really active. They might just very slightly lower your risk of Alzheimer's.
Sleep? What about exercise?
Yeah, that should probably be there too. Definitely exercise.
Atomic gold.
You know, for some random reason, I was looking into it a lot a few weeks ago. You know, maybe there's no real scientific evidence, but there's kind of anecdotal historical evidence. I don't know. You know, if you no, I haven't. Yeah, EPO. That is pretty much at the top of my list of things I haven't tried that I would like to try. I'm very curious. There's definitely evidence that it does amazing things for the brain, and it's less dangerous to take if you're not a high-performance physical athlete, but you do have to inject it, so that's a pretty serious barrier for a lot of people. But usually when I'm feeling uncreative, I go to the World Anti-Doping Organization's list of banned substances, which is just a wealth of resources on, you know, ways to dope yourself.
I know a neuroscientist just said paracetam is not very well known, that it does too many things to the brain, so it's probably not wise to take. Can you provide me evidence for why it's safer than sugar?
It's one of those things, kind of like cannabis, that there's no known overdose amount. So, sorry. So paracetam is one of those things that, like cannabis, no one has really overdosed on. That it's been tested in utterly heroic dosages in mice and humans, and no one dies. So, yeah, it's not that well understood, but it's at least not in any way acutely toxic.
We're gonna have a microphone. Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, right.
So, go ahead.
What to stay away from?
What to stay away from? High dosages of amphetamine.
You have the first poker player or futurist or somebody sponsored and actually taking this stuff and getting it. Is it like, is there drug legality and advertisers like that? That stuff?
Poker players are well into this stuff already.
Sponsored by, that's what I want. Because, like, you know, you got your sports stars who are like talking about it.
Yeah, I think it'll happen by the World Poker Tour next year. That Alpha Brain was sponsoring and had news at the tournament this year, so I think it'll take it off. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Kevin Fischer.